This is augforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for countersale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and acu-POS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Friday, December 8th, 2023, and this is episode number 117. You can find related links on the episode page at augforums.com/episode 117. Today we're talking with Liz Anderson about acu-connect, and if you hear an engine noise in the background, that's because this is the first time I'm trying one of these from the back seat of my car. We'll see how it goes. I've still got the pretty decent mic. We'll see if it picks up the engine noise, but Liz, unbeknownst to her, is the guinea pig for this trial here. I'm usually out and about on my podcasting days, and it's annoying to have to get back to wouldn't call it a studio, but a better audio recording place. So I'm going to try it and we'll see how it turns out. So with that said, Liz, thanks for being a guinea pig and thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Tim. Happy to be here. And just so you know, I cannot hear your engine noise. So I think the audience is going to be okay.
All right. I know it's amazing to me. You take a lot of these things for granted, but like microphones, I mean, they do a really good job of canceling noise, even just basic ones nowadays, right? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like on airplanes anymore, I always just keep AirPods or, something in my ears just to cancel out any noise around me because it just makes it a more enjoyable experience.
So I'm thankful for modern technology. I know it's always changing, but glad to have it. So we'll see how this goes. I always like to, before we dive into acu-connect and what you've got going on, I always like starting with the brief origin story of all of our guests. Maybe you could tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you landed in the world of mid-market ERP.
Oh, this should be a good story, Tim, because when I tell
Good.
people
I like it.
how I came to be, it was a system of chance, but it was all good chance. So I grew up actually in North Dakota on a farm, just south of Fargo. If you're familiar with that area, many people are not. And I ended up going to college in Minnesota on the other side of the river from Fargo. It was a small liberal arts college called Concordia, and that's where I met my husband. And when I was living there, we got married right before my husband was going to go to graduate school in Oregon. And one of our neighbors, because I lived in a small farming community, said, "Hey, your wedding's this weekend. We've got relatives in town from Oregon. Are you okay if they come to your wedding?" And my parents are like, "Sure, the more the merrier." And I'm not going to forget the fact that we already had, I think, 300 people coming to the wedding at this point, because in small towns, this is a bigger deal. And so one of the people that was their relative that came to the wedding heard I was moving out to Oregon, and he said, "Hey, hook me up or look me up when you get to town. I, might be interested in having you start with us. We're looking at expanding our team." So I got out to Oregon, and I interviewed with them and a few other companies and got a couple offers. And at the end of the day, I was very excited about this opportunity. It happened to be a Microsoft Dynamics VAR, something that I knew nothing about. And all of a sudden, I became part of this ERP channel that has essentially been, my history ever since. The rest is history. So, the twist on this story, though, Tim, is that, as you know, I've recently changed positions. And the partner who brought me into my first role on the channel, his partner at the company is now my new boss again. So,
Wow.
what comes around goes
That's
around,
pretty
right?
cool.
Yep.
Oh, I want to hear more about that. I'm going to ask about that. Before I do, when you said Fargo, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's got to be Dynamics. But then when you said Oregon, I'm like, oh, maybe your entry point was Sage Timberline,
Yeah,
and it
no,
ended
I
up being
actually
Dynamics
lived
after all.
5 miles from the Sage Timberline office when I lived in Oregon, actually. And at the
But
time,
it
I
was,
didn't know it as much because I was a Microsoft channel reseller, right? But yeah, I did know where that Sage Timberline office was because I lived very close to it. Mhm.
and so the one of the partners at the VAR in Oregon is one of the partners at Solver, where you're at now?
He's actually now an employee of Solver. He's their chief
Employee. Okay.
operating officer. Yeah, and so he
Okay.
recruited me to come back and work for him again. Yeah, so
Very cool. Well, I want to
yeah.
get to that. Um, let's see. Yeah, let's stick chronologically here. Let's talk acu-connect, then we can talk what you're up to now.
Yeah.
Um, so, we had this sort of bouncing back and forth by email for a couple months now. Acu-connect happened. Oh, when was it now? Was it September or October?
It was September. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Seems
so
like
it's
it
been
was
a few
yesterday, but
months.
it was September.
We've had Nicole on before to talk about acu-connect, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity since you just had the event a few months ago to get an update. Maybe we could start with the event itself, and then we could kind of back into what acu-connect in general is up to these days. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, we held our fourth annual. I had to actually verify with the board. I'm like, was this really our fourth event? I thought it was the third. And that's what I mean. Time just flies. But yeah, we held our fourth virtual event September 13th to the 14th this year. acu-connect is typically a 2-day event, but we do kind of 2 half days to be cognizant of everybody's time, so that they can still get some work in those days, but also attend the sessions for part of the day. So it's not taking them completely out of pocket to join us. But this year's event was our best one yet. We had a lot of new users or first time users. I think it was 63% of the users that joined us this time were new. And this event is really driven by our ISV sponsors. And then what we do is we also have subject matter experts, whether that's VARs or influencers in the channel, to help present. And so, we always thank our sponsors for helping to make this event happen because of that, because we can afford the technology that we use to host the event on, and that sort of thing. But more importantly, it's another way to bring the community together to learn, share, and connect, which is kind of our motto within the community. And so, like I said, it was a 2-day event, and we had over, I think, 24 sponsors for the event this year. And depending on the sponsorship level, we had some of them that had dedicated sessions, some of them had concurrent sessions, and then we also had 2 keynotes. Our keynotes were repeats from the previous year because they had such a great turnout, and we had Ed Kless as our opening keynote, and he did a great session on innovation beyond technology and talked about how companies can think about being disruptive with innovation to get a competitive advantage. And that was awesome. Ed, I think Ed. He is a very interactive speaker and provides a lot of commentary around, getting the audience engaged. So we all enjoyed that. And then we also closed it out with John Case, the CEO of Acumatica. And this year, instead of having him start day 2, we had him close day 2 in the hopes that we would get people to stay till the end, especially for sponsors that maybe or presenters that were presenting towards the end of day 2. And it actually worked out really well. I think that we had a really high attendance stick on for the end of the sessions. And John talked about how communities like acu-connect are helping to grow the community and how important they are to the sustainability long-term of the community. So we always appreciate having the support of Acumatica at these shows. So yeah, it was a great event. And like I said, it was the best that we've had so far. I think we had over 600 registrants from six continents, which was essentially a little bit over a 20% increase from the prior year. So we're very excited about that continuing to grow. And I think, so we had 63, I think, that were first time users. And then when you look at like the makeup of who was attending, we normally say we're a third, not only for members in the community or subscribers, but it's very similar like that for the event. But this year we had the most VARs attend, which was great because we feel the more balls we can get involved in the community, the more they'll use that as an opportunity to educate their customers or their prospects. And so it helps to continue to grow the community even more. And we actually had about 4% of our audience that was considering Acumatica. So they weren't even Acumatica customers yet. So we're really starting to expand our reach from just ISVs and VARs and then customers to now also including some existing or some prospective customers for the channel to help continue to grow it. So yeah, it was a great 2 days full. And Tim, I know you were a presenter again this year, which we were very excited to have. So, why don't you talk a little bit too about what your session was? I think you talked about, this is way over my technology and insight, but you talked about SQL views and generic inquiries. And so I know that was a topic that, because of your reporting expertise, was near and dear to your heart as well.
You came prepared to this podcast episode. I'll say that. Throwing out all these statistics and
yeah. I know. That's why I said I want to make sure I have time to grab everything before we do it, because I'm very proud of the growth that we've had over the last couple of years. So it's nice to share that with the community and let people know that this is something that is growing, and jump on the bandwagon. You don't want to be left behind.
I did do a session on SQL because of the AUG SQL product I've been working on at augforums.com/augsql. And actually what caught my attention about the event was the VARs. So it's interesting that you note attendance-wise how many more VARs. What caught my attention was presenter-wise. A lot of names I recognize that were that subject matter expert consultant type. I think a lot of times at these events, it's ISV heavy. I don't mean acu-connect. I just mean community events in general. It's very ISV heavy. It's very marketing heavy. Even when Acumatica used to do these road shows to promote their R2 releases years ago, it would basically be a marketing pitch that's really designed for prospects, people considering Acumatica. And so to be able to have an event where you have true in-depth subject matter expert content is rare. And that really did catch my attention this year. I noticed that a lot of the sessions were put on by consultant types, people who are in the trenches with the product, not just someone who's looking to sell you something. So congrats on that. I know that was, even back when acu-connect started with Patty and you and some others, that was your goal. But
Yeah.
pulling that off is not easy to do because it's essentially volunteers, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
great
still is
job
today.
moving in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, no, and you're spot on, Tim. We started as a grassroots effort of people in the community that were either subject matter experts themselves or wanted to share their subject, provide essentially a venue for people to share their subject matter expertise within the channel. And we first started out really just being an ISV community, and that has morphed specifically mainly because of this event every year into not only including VARs but also customers as well. And because we want to be more educational focused, right? And not salesy and marketing in our approach to the community. That is one of the things that as a board member, we're constantly trying to figure out how can we get more content out there that is more thought leadership in nature and more educational. And I think that the committees that are running our events and that sort of thing are doing a good job of bringing in some very well respected subject matter experts in the community to help spread that insight that they have out there, really to free of charge to everybody who's out there. Thanks once again to those sponsors for helping to drive the community. So yeah, I'm glad you noticed that, because that is something that we continue to do and that we're going to continue to focus on as we grow the community in the future.
And so you mentioned board. I think you are now or currently the president of the board. Is that
I
correct?
I am the board president as of this summer. Yes. So I always say thanks to Nicole Ronchetti for being the outgoing board president. She also just recently changed roles and went to a company that wasn't as, and at least her role wasn't involved as much in the Acumatica channel. And so when that happened, we as a board determined that we needed to have somebody within the board to take over as a president. And, as you mentioned, I've been pretty much involved with it from the beginning. And so I was the next natural selection. So the board voted, and here I am. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I do take this role quite seriously, and hopefully the board enjoys my comments and opinions on where I think things should be headed. But overall, we've got a good group of board members. It's myself as the president right now, and then we've got Amy Keenan from the ISV Society, who's our vice president. We have a newer board member. So when Nicole left, I was previously the treasurer, so we needed a new treasurer. So we brought in Mike Notley from iTech Support to be our treasurer. He's been a great addition and really helping us also to focus on VAR recruitment. And then we have Darcy Borio, who is from DAB Partners, and she is our secretary. And then we both have two additional board members that are there as advisors, and that's Louisa Gooding from Acumatica and Johnny Girardi from Data South. So we've got a board of 6 right now. And once again, we're all volunteers, and we are officially a nonprofit organization. We set up that entity and got that status back in 2021. So yeah, we're operating as a real community out there. And, we appreciate all the volunteers that make it happen, because without them, we couldn't do it. And we're always looking for more. So that's just a little plug for the community right now, if you're listening. And part of the Acumatica committee channel, we're always looking for more committee members to join us. We have a couple of committees actually these days. We have one that's been longstanding, which is our events committee and webinar that helps kind of dictate our marketing plan around the content that we're going to be sharing for all of our outgoing online seminars and webinars. And then we also have a social media committee you probably see us take over LinkedIn and that sort of thing with our blue and yellow colors every September, and usually around Acumatica Summit time. And then we started 2 new committees after Acumatica or after the acu-connect event in September. And those are focused around technology and content and outreach. We are launching a new website soon, so we wanted to create a content committee to help make sure that we're getting content on there that can support that. And then we're also looking at reinvesting some of our sponsorship dollars into technology tools to help people provide more opportunities for networking opportunities and that sort of thing, as well as just collaboration, not only internally, but externally too.
And so when it comes to, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting my mic. When it comes to collaborating there, it seems like your focus up till now has been virtual. We've got the virtual event that's gone on 4 times so far. Are you looking
Yep.
to do another virtual event in the fall, or is there any potential in-person thing on the horizon, if you can share?
So So I hear that I listened to your podcast with Nicole last year, and you asked the same question. So I think that I'm hearing, Tim, you want us to do a live event. But we've talked about it. I'll be honest, we've talked about it, but I'll tell you, some of the board members, when we've mentioned it, they're just like, oh no, we don't want to do that, at least not yet. So I'm not ever ruling it out, Tim. I'm actually one of the board members that has brought it up in the past as something we should potentially consider. We do obviously have a session at Acumatica Summit in January every year. Acumatica is great about making sure that we have the floor to have everybody come and collaborate with us. So that is technically part of an in-person event for us right now, but we don't host our own event on by ourselves in person. So we're not committing to that for 2024. I'll be clear about that right now, but that doesn't mean in the future that that may change. We'll see. We'll just kind of see where the community goes. I've been part of a lot of communities like this in multiple ERP channels, and a lot of them have those in-person events, and a lot of them have gotten very large. And so because we're all volunteer driven right now, I think that if we were going to do that, we may have to hire some full-time staff to help manage those types of things in the future. So those are kind of the things that we have to think about as a board, not only from a budget perspective, but also from a resource perspective, if we're going to take this thing to the next level and have it in person. How's that for an answer, Tim?
That is a good answer. And you are right. I did ask Nicole the same thing. I will say it's not because I'm jumping up and down to attend another event. That's not why I ask. I will
Yeah.
say I'm a total introvert and I go to Summit once a year. Maybe someday I'll go to ITA. I haven't yet. But yeah, I'm not a big event person because it takes me like a week to recover. I'm still waiting for someone to design a conference for introverts like me. It'd probably be in the mountains with cabins and, lakes to walk around, something like that. But
Yeah.
I'm not like a big events person. So I don't ask for me personally. The reason I ask is because I still, not still, I like, you look at the other entities that become what they become, like a 90 Minds or an ITA or something that get
Yep.
people together. And really, the value is all about the in person, right? In terms of,
Yep.
I think, why people do that. I actually think it's very commendable that you all on the board recognize how much more work that would be and
Yes.
are realistic about saying we just aren't ready to do that and maybe never will be, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
actually, it's kind of neat. In my opinion, you're kind of pioneering a virtual space because yeah, everyone does virtual events, but I don't know that many, maybe you do, but I don't know that many like purely non-publisher put on virtual educational type events because there's no money in it. There's not a lot
Right.
of money in it, right?
Right.
You're getting some
Yeah.
sponsorship stuff to cover your, expenses, but as you said, it's volunteer board. It's not, you don't have anyone full-time staff, and so it's kind of a, to be able to stay in those guardrails takes some discipline, and so far you guys have been able to do it. So I'm sort of like just curious if you're serious about in person. I'm not pushing you in that direction. I think it's actually respectable that you stay within the parameters that you've set so far.
Yeah. And I do think that we also want to look for ways of how do we, separate ourselves from some of the other things that are available in the community, right? We've got the Acumatica user groups that have in-person events regionally, right? That's out there today. And then I know that, obviously there's Acumatica Summit too, which is both in person. And, we were slightly concerned that when we started doing these events, that everybody got kind of sick of online just due to the pandemic. But the fact that we saw a 20% increase in growth in our registrations kind of solidified to us that, hey, there is still a need for this as long as we're doing it right? We're not, just death by PowerPoint. We're bringing value to the community and have topics that people are interested in, and, being smart about the time that we're setting aside for it, like the 2 half days versus 2 full days and that sort of thing. But but to your point, Tim, the in-person or just the networking piece of it is really what helps these types of communities flourish. And that's why we've invested in a technology committee for this next year, because we have talked about other ways to provide some of that more, not in person per se, but more intimate type engagements for opportunities for networking, whether that's tools that we can use online or what that might look like. So those are some things that we're exploring to try to expand outside of just the, monthly webinars that we do and our happy hours and then our annual event online. So more to come on that.
Talk to me more about the networking, so you don't have to divulge any secrets here, but like forget about the technology.
Yep.
Or forget about the software technology. At this point, the metaverse is not quite, well, at least other than for video gamers, I'm not on it. I don't know if it really exists. I don't really know. So for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to say I'm limited to my phone and my computer screen. Those are like the 2 devices I can interact with, right?
Yep.
What's your personal view? Like, you don't have to be saying a position from acu-connect at all, but your personal view, forget about software. How would you want to do networking with someone virtually?
Yeah. So I'm actually,
like, do you have to pick a day and a time? Is it like a round robin? Is it like, you press a button and it randomly pairs you with someone? Like, how would you even accomplish it, in your personal role?
Yeah. So the way that some of the things that we've been exploring, and this kind of just goes, and I'm part of some communities that do things this way too, but think about how you interact through a platform like a Microsoft Teams or a Slack, or in the not olden days, but historically platforms had forums, right? Where people could go out there and communicate. We tried to get a forum going, but we also felt it was repetitive to the forums that was out there for Acumatica already. So, we're looking at ways to leverage some of these tools, potentially even leveraging AI to say, hey, your calendar looks free. So does this person's calendar look free? If we use some of these tools, and then they can say, hey, this is somebody that has shown similar interest to you. You guys want to jump on a call today or tomorrow or whatever, right? So there are tools out there specifically around AI that, can be leveraged to help try to be a matchmaker per se within our community to expand people's networks that way. And so at that point, it's just getting the match made through a similar, one single platform, and then the people choose to have that collaboration however they choose. To your point, it could be via just a phone call. It could be via a live video conference. It could be, hey, we're both in Scottsdale, Arizona, where you live, Liz. Why don't we go and meet for coffee, right? So those are some of the things that we're looking at to try to get more engagement within the community members.
And so the goal would be one-on-one connection virtually somehow.
Initially, yes. However, I do see an opportunity for creating what I would call channels, or, and I use the word loosely because some of the tools that I use call them channels or teams or whatever, but, creating groups of people, right, that have a similar interest and putting them in that same group for collaboration that way as well. So similar to a forum, but it's more real time. You can click a button and meet now or whatever that looks like. So it doesn't have to be one-on-one. It could be based on topics of interest as well.
Oh, that's really cool. As you were talking about the one-on-one part of it, I was picturing like a swipe left, swipe right type of an app, where you can just see some bullet
Right.
points about a person, they're in this industry, they're in
Yeah,
this
no,
location,
no,
whatever.
we're not doing any swiping with our
Well, look
players.
at that. Could be kind of cool, right? Because like,
I mean, who knows? I mean, that's up to everybody's personal choice, but that's not the intent.
no, I mean, to me, it's the mechanics of it that I like, because
Yes, no, I get it.
I
Yeah.
built a Rolodex, on my site, augforums.com/Rolodex, and it's got a bunch of people listed who deal with Acumatica, and they can create a little write up about themselves, but you got to scroll through that list, right? And it can be
Yeah.
quite overwhelming. So just the idea of like, how to have someone jump on and just kind of filter through what they're looking for. That
Yeah.
is kind of interesting to think about from a
Yeah.
professional standpoint when you're
Yeah.
talking about that one-on-one connection type of a thing.
Yeah. And like we don't have an app or anything like that today, but who knows? Maybe that's in the future. And that like this is something we haven't even talked about as a board, but really I think the possibilities, especially with AI moving forward, are the opportunities are going to become even greater for us to figure out ways to get more collaboration within the community. So we'll just have to figure out which one makes the most sense and do some trial and error, find some guinea pigs like I am today for you, Tim, in your car podcast, and
So far,
see
so
what
good.
sticks. Yeah, yeah,
Well, cool. I love the pioneering digital connection stuff that you guys are working on behind the scenes. Right now, to me, the main thing, I know you've got like some blogging stuff you do. You mentioned the social media
hmm
committee, but I think the main thing to me when I think of acu-connect right now is that annual event. And so, I did want to ask you on the virtual side there. I've thought about this a lot, and I don't really have an expertise on it. It's just something I've noodled on quite a bit. Um, for when you do webinars, let's just stick with acu-connect, because I know you guys do webinars also, but let's just stick with like that 2-day event. Um,
yep,
you know, I've wrestled this quite a bit just from a consumer standpoint. If I know that the recordings are going to be available, what's my like incentive to attend live? I've got the chat. To me, that's the main one. Um, give me your thoughts on like why people attend live versus just wait for the recording.
yeah. So this was the first year we did the event. We actually put a form in front. It might have been the first 2 years actually, a form in front of the recordings because we were concerned about that. But we got feedback from not only the sponsors but also some of the attendees that, hey, why are we gating this content? And so, to your point though, Tim, is like, why would you attend live if you can watch the recording? Well, if you're attending live, there is that networking opportunity that you miss if you just watch the recordings, right? So we have a main stage where people can interact via the chat. There is speed networking within the platform that we use. We have virtual booths and that sort of thing that you wouldn't have access to if you didn't attend the event live. So it's really that networking component and from my perspective as why you'd want to attend it live. And yes, maybe you can attend every sessions, but then watch those ones that you want to that you couldn't attend at a later date. But there's so much more value in what the event offers from being live versus just watching the recordings.
I think that's a great one from a like mechanical side, like not mechanical, but like from like a true technical side of what's there. Um, a couple that I'll add to that. The first one is I've just realized for me, even though the recordings could be watched, I probably won't do it. Like
Right.
I have
Yeah.
to set a date
You
and
have good
time for
intent.
myself anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, especially
Yep.
for 4 hours of content. So why not just use the same date and time that's was set by someone else, right? It's like
Yep.
you'll never write that English paper in school unless you have a deadline. That's just the
Right.
way it is, right? So
Yeah.
who cares what the day and time is? Just make it work, right? Because
Yeah.
blocking out 4 hours is impossible unless you just buckle down and do it. And so you might as well do it on the day that someone else decided, right? And
Absolutely.
then
Yep.
the other thing for me is energy. Like I don't know what it is, but about a live event, there's just something. It's not a technical thing because you could get the same delivery on a recording, but there's just something. It's like watching live sports, right? I can
hmm
watch an event that already happened and see the exact same game, but there's just something to it about being live. There's a human energy part, I think, on both the side of the consumer and the side of the presenter. Just knowing that I can't change this, it's going to turn out the way it turns out, and I think that's cool. And so I do like that. I do like live events, and I know that putting them on is a lot of work to get it all arranged and everything. So, yeah,
Yes.
I think it's something to it. And you've got proof in the numbers there that, as you said, even post pandemic, you still had an increase, a pretty good
Yep.
increase in attendance.
Yep.
So that I
Yep.
think you're onto something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're spot on, Tim, with the energy or the excitement you get from attending these events live. I always think about just even back to like annual sales kickoffs or, team meetings offsite, and that sort of thing, or even just coming back from Acumatica Summit, for example, on the Acumatica channel. There's this feeling of motivation that comes from the energy that you feel like attending these events in person or live, online, and that you wouldn't get if you were just watching the recording. So I think I like that one. That's a good one.
And you guys also do like virtual happy hours, I think, right?
We do, and we have one actually coming up again next Thursday. But yeah,
Oh,
we do. Yeah, it's coming up next Thursday at, I guess it would be 1 o'clock Pacific time. For those, if you want to register, you can go out to our website and go to our events tab and find out the registration there. But yeah, we do them quarterly right now. We were doing them every month back during the pandemic, and we actually started those to try to provide an opportunity for people to connect when they couldn't, right? But now we do them because we do monthly webinars. On top of everything, we do our happy hours once a quarter right now. So yeah, our holiday one is coming up next week, and we typically do something fun. People show up in ugly sweaters or holiday headbands or whatever, holiday hats, to try to come with some spirit and that sort of thing. So yeah, they're fun. It's a great way to just they're very informal, Tim. They're not, I think you've attended some in the past, but
actually, I
they're,
haven't. So I'm
have you
wondering,
not?
like,
Oh my gosh.
I've
Well,
never
I'm going to
attended
send you
one.
the invite.
Is it a Zoom call? Is it
It's
a
like yeah, it's a Zoom meeting. Yeah, that's
okay?
exactly what it is. Yeah.
And like,
Um,
what does it look like in the past? 20 people show up,
yeah, so
10
I
people
think
show up, something like
it
that.
can be anywhere from 20 to 50 people on average. Depending on
Oh
the time of the
wow,
year or what
that's a lot.
the topic is. But we usually do like a fun Kahoot game on a theme. Like last year we did Christmas trivia or holiday trivia, I think it was. And then we give away prizes and that sort of thing too. So yeah, they're fun. I'm going to send you the invite for next Thursdays, and hopefully I'll see you there this time. So you can't say that you've never been to
Okay,
one.
all right. That does sound interesting. Very cool. Well, cool. So it sounds like you guys you've got. I I feel like you've got what you're doing and what you're not doing right now. Now that might
Yeah.
change in the future, but you know what you're doing and you're just cranking it out and you're doing a great job at it and keep it up on the acu-connect side.
Thank you. Yeah. And then on that note too, before we end today, I want to also just mention that, with Acumatica Summit coming up, we also, as I mentioned, have a session, and I'm going to not probably pronounce this name right, but we're having a session on Sunday at Acumatica Summit in room Latosh 1 from 3 to 4 p.m. So anybody that's attending, whether you're a ISV VAR customer and want to learn more about the community, we are going to have a live session there. The whole board is going to be in attendance, so we'll all be presenting, and we talked about ways to, potentially get more involvement from the room or from our audience this year too. So more to come on that. If you're there, I highly recommend you stop by. Will you be at Summit this year, Tim? And did you want to do your Acumatica song for us again in your in our session?
I was just gonna ask. I will be, and I would love to bring my guitar again. And
All right, bring. We'll
I
make it
might
happen.
have a duet lined up. We might
Oh
tweak the
my.
song a little bit, and I might have
Okay.
someone who I won't name in the moment, but who sing it with me.
That would be awesome. No, we would love that. And that song last year was amazing. So, and then we're also doing a passport again for our community sponsors. They have the option to opt into our passport. We actually have 24 partners, I think, participating currently right now. Not every stamp has to be, stamped into the passport. We're doing it a little differently this year based on how many stamps they got to get entered to win a couple prizes. So it's just a way to drive traffic to all of our community sponsors at the show. So we're excited about that. And yeah, we'll have a big presence again at Acumatica Summit this year. So we're looking forward to that.
So for those of us non-super marketing savvy people, a passport, I think, is, I've never done one actually, but I think you have to like visit a certain number of booths and they stamp their stamp when you visit their
That's
booth.
exactly
Something like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So think of it like a passport and you're traveling to another country. Instead of traveling to another country, you're traveling from booth to booth to learn more about each of the sponsors or vendors. Yeah, it's just a way to get people maybe to stop by somebody's booth that they didn't know about and, realize, oh, I might have a need for this solution. So it's a fun way to go around and meet all the community sponsors for acu-connect.
But unlike a regular passport, it's not a super long line. You don't have to go through customs and they don't go through your luggage.
No, it's only fun, and you might walk away with some good swag and a solution that you need for your business.
Cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, Summit is coming up very soon. But maybe we could change gears here now and talk about what's up with you. I saw you recently changed jobs. Maybe you can update us on what's going on in your world.
Yes, so I recently changed roles, and I'm now working at Solver. And I am their new vice president of global marketing. Solver is a solution that back when I was in the Microsoft channel, I used to resell that product before I switched to the ISV side of publishers and working for ISVs. So I'm very familiar with them. I know a lot of the team from my past experience working with them. And yeah, it's a great culture, great community. But for those of you that don't know what Solver is, they are a cloud-based, all-in-one corporate performance management or CPM solution that helps organizations with budgeting, forecasting, reporting, analysis. And our goal at the end of the day is to help companies make better and more accurate decisions. So yeah, I'm loving it. I've been here for about a month, and I keep telling to myself, why did I join during budgeting season? Because I literally hit the road running and haven't stopped. But it's been fun and good, and I'm very excited to help Solver with their next trajectory for the growth that they're looking forward to in the future. So yeah, it's been good so far, and I'm looking forward to representing and being with the team at Acumatica Summit this year.
I've always liked the Solver BI 360 product. I've always wanted to get more involved with it, just haven't had opportunity to. But ever since I first learned about it, it was actually, so you probably know, you might have heard the name Mike Kimbrough. I think he's like
Mm-hmm.
head of the Asia area
Yep.
for Solver now.
Yep.
And
Had a
back
chance to
in,
have a few emails with him already. So yes, I'm very familiar.
I think it was 2009 or 2010. Both Mike and I were working at Nextech,
Oh,
and
wow.
Mike realized that bringing Solver in on demos helped them close deals better because most C people could care less about the ERP. They just want better dashboards. And so, anyways, he was getting him and Niels were involved quite a bit on a lot of deals, and Mike grabbed me one day and took me over to Solver, which we were both in the LA office of Nextech, and so Solver was almost literally down the street. I think they were on Santa Monica Boulevard. We were on Olympic,
Yep.
which is like just
Yep.
one major street apart. So we went over to
Wow.
Solver and we sit in the conference room, and Niels gets up. There might have Farah might have also been there. So there's two or three of us in the room, and then Niels gets up on the whiteboard and just draws his vision of BI 360 because it didn't really exist yet. And I just never forgot it because he just totally captured my attention with what he was trying to do. And ever since then, I've always wanted to get more involved with it, but just haven't had the opportunity to yet. So cool, definitely cool product, cool company, and something that it's kind of similar thing. They know what they do and they do it well. They
Yeah.
know that they're budgeting for people who know Excel, but then you don't even have to deploy it in Excel. And I really like that approach that they've taken.
Yeah, no, and I think for me, something that was really appealing right now too is, with everything that's going on with AI, I feel like Solver is really positioned to be in a really large growth market right now moving forward. So I'm excited to kind of see what comes of that. I think we don't know what we don't know when it comes to that sort of thing. So yeah, it should be a fun ride. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, they've recently, and I don't know how long ago, because like I said, I'm fairly new, but they've sunsetted the BI 360 branding. So now it's just Solver for the product. It's Solver Suite. So yeah, they've had some updates to their pricing to lower the entry for customers to get in and include all the features. So yeah, there's a lot of things that Solver's doing to expand their market and be disruptive, as Ed Kless would say, and trying to be innovative in how we can, you know, take ourselves to the next level and lead the pack.
I'm laughing. You marketing people. Now, maybe not you personally marketing people, because maybe you're not as heavy on the product marketing side, but these product marketing people just love renaming stuff. And I just laughed at that. I didn't know it wasn't BI anymore,
Well,
but
we didn't. I mean, it did get, at least it didn't get renamed to another name other than BI 360. It's just Solver.
that's
So,
true. Yeah,
as far
Solver
as
was
I'm
always
concerned,
there.
it
Yeah.
got rid of a brand. We have one brand identity now, which is good.
It just, for a technical brain like mine, it just doesn't make sense. But it must
Yep.
work because obviously everyone does it and they do it for a reason. So it's
Yep.
just not something that I personally understand. Well, cool. Congrats on that. And sounds like exciting, ramping up on, but yeah, other than the budgeting season, and you did try to cancel on me, or not
I
cancel, you
know.
did try to reschedule on me, and I was willing to do that, but said it had to be February. So I guess
Yeah.
that was threatening enough to get you to still come on today. And you
Yes.
still
No, it
came
was,
prepared with all of your stats. So well
I
done.
did.
Thanks. I
I
appreciate
did.
it.
Thank you.
Any other last thoughts on acu-connect or anything else that you'd like to leave before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for anybody that is joining us today and listening, as I mentioned, our community is all about getting involved. And if you are part of the Acumatica channel in any way, I encourage you to join. And as I mentioned, be part of the bandwagon. Don't be left behind. But you can sign up to be a member so that you at least start getting our communications on our website by simply going to the main page and just clicking on member and sign up. But there's no cost to do that. So I encourage everybody to do that. And if you're interested in getting even more involved and just kind of being in the know of what things we have going on to provide expertise out there on educational topics, you can join a committee. And we're always looking for new committee members. And if you're an ISV out there and want to get involved, join and be a sponsor. We are always looking for more sponsors. The more sponsors we have, obviously, more we can reinvest back into the community and create some of these tools that we've talked about today to try to get more engagement out there. So yeah, I appreciate you having us. Have the opportunity for me to represent acu-connect on this podcast today, Tim, and it's always fun and engaging to communicate and connect with you. And, I look forward to having you sing for us at Acumatica Summit in January.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And I will put a link to the acu-connect website. It always throws me because of the dash. It's acu-connect.com.
Yes.
But I'll put a link to
Yes.
that in the episode notes on this page. And again, thank you, Liz. Even in the midst of busy budgeting season, thank you very much for making the time for us today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of augforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening and take care.